Today's topic is very controversial. So there are two schools of thought. There is the leftist school of thought and there is the right school of thought. Right doesn't mean right, it's just right and left in terms of their orientation with different beliefs. तो हो सकता है कि मेरी orientation किसी एक तरफ ज़्यादा हो. I don't mean to offend anyone. It's just I wouldn't even say my opinion. Just I would say something that I believe. I can be wrong once again. So I mean no offense to anyone. Just one random question. Are all of you Muslims? Just asking. Yes. Is anyone of any other faith? Because I just want to be careful not to offend anyone. Okay. So talking about this topic, before I begin, maybe some people of you who have any interest in this topic will know of Jordan Peterson. Anyone of you knows about Jordan Peterson? Okay. So Jordan Peterson actually talked about this topic regarding gender pronouns, and then he became famous. But as soon as he walked out of his talk and his debate, so there was a big protest. So I hope I don't turn into Jordan Peterson, and I will try to keep things as casual as possible. So now talking about LGBTQ and transgender, we or try to appear as liberal. We talk about stuff which is actually absolutely incorrect. Like Islam doesn't say that, but we inside we know that Islam does say that. Sometimes we say कि तुम लोगों का Islam खतरे में पड़ जाए. We should never say that because Islam can never be in danger. Because Allah Himself has taken the responsibility of protecting His religion, protecting His book, and protecting His Prophet. We cannot harm the Prophet, we cannot harm His book, we cannot harm His religion. What we are actually harming is our own faith. So if we don't agree with something, I don't ask you to agree with everything that any person is saying, but we should at least try not to say things that are actually incorrect. Like, let's suppose if I say that in Islam, it is said that, like, for example, if in the institute of marriage, for example, in Islam it says कि जो है वो मर्द का दर्जा जो है वो औरत से बड़ा होता है. लेकिन on the other hand, Islam also says कि माँ और बाप के अंदर माँ का दर्जा जो है वो बाप से 3 गुना बड़ा. So that is what Islam says. So if I am going to negate that, I am actually challenging Islam. I may not agree to it. Like, let's suppose a person may not agree to practicing like one thing which is in Islam कि जो है 4 शादियाँ मर्द के लिए जायज़ हैं. That is just an example. A person may not want to practice it, but that does not mean that it is not allowed in Islam. A person should not go into the debate, why is it not allowed for a woman? Because just God said it, end of story. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Nobody is compelling you. ठीक है? तो इस्लाम के अंदर अल्लाह ताला एक चीज़ कहते हैं कि जिसको हमने तुम्हारे लिए हलाल किया है उसको अपने ऊपर हराम मत करो. और जो चीज़ हराम है वो तो हराम है. बिकॉज अगर आप हराम चीज़ को हलाल करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं तो जो कि हम बहुत सारे गुनाह कम करते हैं, लेकिन एटलीस्ट हमने इतनी एक सेंस ऑफ अकाउंटेबिलिटी, बिकॉज आपको जॉर्डन पीटरसन का पता है, शायद आपको ज़्यादा चीज़ें पता होंगी. सो लेट मी आस्क द जनरल पॉपुलेशन, डू यू नो what transgender is? What is a transgender? आपके जहन में क्या है, मतलब आपके माइंड में क्या आता है ट्रांसजेंडर को सुन? इन्होंने कहा कि जो है ट्रांसजेंडर वो होता है जो ना मेल हो ना फीमेल हो. How many of you agree with this, or how many used to think that this is what a transgender is? No, sir. Okay. You would know, but you can answer the question. Yes. आप बात करते हैं. I used to think that. You used to think that. Yes. Sir, transgender is basically a person who is biologically it belongs to one category. Is either a male or a female. He has an XX chromosome or an XY chromosome, but it's a mental condition. Mentally, he thinks that I'm a man, I'm a woman trapped in a man's body, I'm a man trapped in a woman's body. तो उसके mind के अंदर एक चीज होती है, क्योंकि intersex और transgender में differentiate हमारे यहाँ पे जो होते हैं ख्वाजा सराब, वो intersex होते हैं, उनकी biological condition होती है, तो उसको हमें differentiate करती है transgender. That is very interesting, but just saying because when we talk about this topic, we have to be very careful about inclusive language. Just to let you know, okay, because recording darling I had to mention that. Now, thank you for your opinion what transgenderism is, and you are absolutely correct. Okay? I think most of you may be aware of this situation by now, but मैंने जब भी लोगों से पूछा है तो हमेशा transgender किसको समझते हैं, जैसे कि इन्होंने फरमाया, the person who is neither male nor female, and that is absolutely correct what people think of mostly in Pakistan. ठीक है? Because हमें जो language convey की गई वो हमेशा convey ही ऐसे की गई कि हमें जब भी, जैसे उन्होंने जिक्र किया ख्वाजा सलाम का, या ऐसे लोग जो कि ना मेल होते हैं ना फीमेल होते हैं, we're always told about them and we use the word transgender. So that is why we pick the word transgender as people who are neither male nor female. But as he mentioned, the intersex is the correct word for it. The person who has a biological condition, who is neither a male nor a female, who is neither XX nor XY, that is intersex, which cannot be classified in any of the two genders. However, when we talk about transgenderism, transgender is a person who is born with and assigned a gender, but then he or she decides that his gender is not what he was assigned with. Okay? So this is sort of the inclusive language that they actually use for it. Now, the problem with transgenderism is that when transgenderism started, it was actually challenging the binary gender ideology. What is binary gender ideology? The binary gender ideology is that there are two genders, male and female, like in all animals, like in all humans. So we have two genders, male and female. Now, intersex is not a majority. Intersex is a very, very, very small minority. That is something that we need to keep in mind. But transgender was like, if a person is born with a gender that is assigned to him or her on birth, it is not necessary that that would be the correct gender. So actually, transgenderism actually disregards the basic biology of gender, the binary gender ideology basically. So what they used to say was that a person born a female can later on identify as a male, and you would have to accept him as a male. And a male born as a male can identify as a female, and you would have to accept that person as a female. However, it did not stop there, and the genders started to increase. According to different reports, according to one report, there are approximately 100 genders in England, which are actually recognized by the British government. 100 genders, imagine that. How difficult would it be to explain what you are? And that is not just the end of the situation, because when you're talking about yourself, or when I'm communicating with you, I have to use the pronouns that you have decided are right for you. So if you identify as male, I would use he, him. If you identify as female, I would use she, her. But the problem with that is, now there are 100 genders, so there are multiple pronouns. And now you have to use the correct pronoun and you have to do a lot of guessing. In fact, we have gone to a point where there is one gender which I was reading, and the gender was cake gender. Cake gender. A person who identifies as cake. So now people can identify as cake as well. And you have to accept his or her gender identity, that person is cake. And why? Because the reasoning for that was that suppose that person is soft and fluffy, and that person has a soft personality and sweet and stuff like that. But influence, or maybe I would say that maybe people are funding that school of thought and that opinion, that they are even trying to get this agenda, and they are even trying to discuss this gender fluidity even at school level in Pakistan. Now we have to remember we are the Islamic Democratic State of Pakistan. So we talk about Islam. If I talk about myself, I'm not a very religious person. I'm not a very good Muslim as well, and I have committed a lot of sins, and I commit a lot of sins on a daily basis. But I cannot negate the fact that I am a Muslim. And when I am a Muslim, so I have to follow the commandments of God. I have to follow the commandments of Allah. So if He said something, I have to follow those things as well. It's another thing if I agree with them or I disagree with them. So either you are a Muslim. If you are a Muslim, then you have to follow what God said. Maybe you don't agree with them, but you have to learn to agree with them. And maybe you may have different urges and opinions, but you have to. That is what is actually known as what we call jihad bin nafs. So that is one thing that, like for example, a man is always inclined to look at a woman. All men have that urge, and that comes naturally to a man. That is not something artificial. So when we talk about transgenderism, when we talk about homosexuality, when we talk about bisexuality, or any of those things, they said that this is who we are. This is something that comes to us naturally. In fact, that is not something natural. But even if we consider that it is natural, then a man wanting to look at a woman is also natural. But it does not mean that it is right. Like for example, I may be inclined towards stealing something because I really like it, it's a natural feeling. But that does not mean that it is right. Another very important that we need to understand that we use sentences like whenever we are talking about something and we want to, be or try to appear as liberal, we talk about stuff which is actually absolutely incorrect. Like Islam doesn't say that, but inside we know that Islam does say that. Sometimes we say कि तुम लोगों का Islam खतरे में पड़ जाए. We should never say that because Islam can never be in danger. Because Allah Himself has taken the responsibility of protecting His religion, protecting His book, and protecting His Prophet. We cannot harm the Prophet, we cannot harm His book, we cannot harm His religion. What we are actually harming is our own faith. So if you don't agree with something, I don't ask you to agree with everything that any person is saying, but we should at least try not to say things that are actually incorrect. Like, let's suppose if I say that in Islam, it is said that, like, for example, if in the institute of marriage, for example, in Islam it says कि जो है वो मर्द का दर्जा जो है वो औरत से बड़ा होता है. लेकिन on the other hand, Islam also says कि माँ और बाप के अंदर माँ का दर्जा जो है वो बाप से 3 गुना बड़ा. So that is what Islam says. So if I am going to negate that, I am actually challenging Islam. I may not agree to it. Like, let's suppose a person may not agree to practicing like one thing which is in Islam कि जो है 4 शादियां मर्द के लिए जायज हैं. That is just an example. A person may not want to practice it, but that does not mean that it is not allowed in Islam. A person should not go into the debate, why is it not allowed for a woman? Because just God said it, end of story. If you don't want to do it, don't do it. Nobody is compelling you. ठीक है? तो इस्लाम के अंदर अल्लाह ताला एक चीज़ कहते हैं कि जिसको हमने तुम्हारे लिए हलाल किया है उसको अपने ऊपर हराम मत करो. और जो चीज़ हराम है वो तो हराम ही है. बिकॉज अगर आप हराम चीज़ को हलाल करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं तो जो कि हम बहुत सारे गुनाह कम करते हैं, लेकिन एटलीस्ट हमें इतनी एक सेंस ऑफ अकाउंटेबिलिटी होनी चाहिए कि हमें ये पता हो कि ये चीज़ मैं जो कर रहा हूँ गलत, और कम से कम उसको एडवोकेट ना करो. ठीक है, उसमें एटलीस्ट थोड़ी सी पशेमानी मुझे हो. सो दैट इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट टू अंडरस्टैंड. नाउ टॉकिंग अबाउट transgenderism, how does it affect our lives? Now let's talk about a little bit of scientific perspective. So I have noted some examples, like for example यहाँ पे सब यंगर जनरेशन है, इंस्टाग्राम में इन्फ्लुएंसर्स वगैरह भी फॉलो करते हैं. आप सबको काइली जेनर का पता होगा. So the father, or you can say ex-father of Kylie Jenner, which is now, I don't know what you call him or her. Yes, Kylie Jenner, but I don't know if you call him or her the mother or the father now. But I would go with mother now. So because she's a woman now. So Kylie Jenner was a gold medal athlete. He married a woman. He had children. So that is pretty much a good take on what a man is. But then he decided, or she decided, to become a woman. And not just that she became a woman, she was crowned with the award of Woman of the Year. So in her first year as a woman, she became Woman of the Year. So that raises a lot of questions regarding all of you who have been women for 20, 30, 40 or 50 years. So in her first year of life, she never went through any of the difficulties that any woman goes through, yet she is Woman of the Year. And now the real woman, the woman that actually all of you are actually women, so the real woman cannot even call themselves as women anymore. They have to define themselves. And now they have to call themselves as heterosexual, cisgender woman. That is what you are now. You're not even a woman anymore. You cannot even call yourself as a woman because you are as much of a woman as, let's suppose, a transgender is. And I think that is unfair. And when we talk about transgenderism, the biggest threat that any group is having from transgender activism is women. And ironically, the biggest supporters of that are women. And surprisingly, most of the transgenders are actually men converting to women because in the modern day and age, women have more benefits. So men have physical attributes, physical strengths, but according to law, women have more protection, so they can have the best of both worlds. They can have the physical attributes that support them in life. At the same time, they can also have legal benefits which support them in life. I would not take the name of a TikToker who is very influential, by the way, and she's a transgender female, which means male converted to female. So she was a male, then transitioned into female. So when you say that you transition into female, it means you are a woman and you are into men, right? Okay. Then after some time, after being a woman for some time, she went to her parents and said that I have started becoming interested in women. So now she is a homosexual, transgender woman. No, woman. But if you complete the cycle, if you complete the circle, it's actually a man who's interested in women. That is going on. So that is when so this is, I think if you are talking about it, then why don't just call yourself a man who's interested in women? So he's actually a straight man, but they have actually converted the terminology into a homosexual, transgender woman. So that is why this is never going to stop. So let's suppose today we are having the debate that I identify as a male or as a female. Some people have started identifying as cake. What if some people start identifying as animals? It is possible, right? If someone can identify as cake, someone can identify as a dog as well. And if someone identifies as a dog and then he says, because I identify as a dog, I want to marry a dog. And this is what is going to, because this is not stopping. It started from homosexuality, then it went to bisexuality, then it went to transgenderism, and like there is a very, very big nomenclature of genders out there, which is very confusing now. I will give you a few examples of sports. Like, for example, in the last 2020 Olympics in Tokyo, there was a transgender woman, a man who actually converted to female, and she participated in cycling events in the Olympics. And she was 37 years old, I guess. I'm not exactly sure of the year. So she was past her peak age as well, because the peak age of athletes is in their early 20s, you know that. So, and she went becoming a female and participated with females and competed with females. Not only she won all the competitions, the gold medal in all the competitions she participated in, but also broke all the records of the Olympics. What does this show you? Does this show you that a transgender woman can be compared to a cisgender woman? I will give you another example. Leah Thomas, age 22, swimmer from United States, a transgender woman. This is the most recent news. Broke all the records for swimming in the United States. Because obviously he's actually a man in, I would say, woman appearance. Because they say that when you talk about people transitioning into women, it's actually transphobic if we say that they are different. But they are different. Like when you are growing, when you are a man, let me give you a few examples. Let's take the example of running, for example. Okay, even if you are taking, testosterone inhibitors or whatsoever, and hormone replacement therapies, you have longer tibia, you have longer femur, you have narrower pelvis, you have higher center of gravity, which means you require less amount of energy to transition from a stable equilibrium to unstable equilibrium and move your base of support and thus run. So you need less energy to run. You are taller. You have so many biomechanical advantages as compared to a biological woman, even if you are taking hormone replacement therapy. A simple example would be, like for example, if you have longer tibia and longer femur, which means you have longer legs, even if you are of the same height, women have shorter legs shorter long bones as compared to males. So that person would have longer step length. So in a single step, that person would cover more distance. In a single step, that person would require lesser amount of energy to cover that distance, and so on. So how can you compare them both? But that is what's actually happening. And then there is another cyclist, Rachel McKinnon, in 2019, broke all records in Tokyo, as I mentioned. Then there is Lauren Hubert in 2017, that actually transgender woman broke all records for weightlifting. But combat sport, what is the most dangerous contact sport? MMA. Yeah. In MMA, Fallon Fox was a transgender woman, and they actually put her in a cage with a cisgender woman. What would have been the outcome?
Destruction.
Yeah, she broke her skull. Because MMA is mixed martial arts. You can use anything. You can use your fist, you can use your leg, you can use your knee, you can fight in any style you want. Okay, it's a wild fight. It's not like boxing or any other thing in which there are a lot of regulations. So it's a full-on wild fight, and you put a man and a woman in the same cage. Okay, now the debate has gone even further. Like for example, in a lot of schools and offices in the United States, the problem is, if let's suppose I am a man and identify as a woman, and I demand to go to a female washroom, what would happen? The legislation says that I can use the female washroom. But isn't that a threat to the female privacy and female security? And an example of that would be, a criminal was caught in the United States, and he was charged with domestic violence, murder, and rape. And once he was caught, he identified himself as a woman. So what did they do? They sent him to the female prison. What do you think would have happened? Yep. He raped and impregnated 4 females, and one of them was a guard. A guard. Because obviously what a female guard can do against a man who is actually used to, criminal acts. Obviously he would not be a simple man. He would have nerves of steel, and he would have a lot of strength as well, maybe even more than a normal man. So, as I already said, that all of this is leading to a greater violation of women's rights than men. And if you read all the stories, it's mostly men converting into women. And this brings me to another debate. We talk about patriarchy. We talk about toxic masculinity. We talk about men. Okay? So the real thing is, let men be men and let women be women. Let's stop comparing them, because they are not equal. It does not mean that men are better than women and women are better than men. Like for example, if I talk from a scientific perspective, women have a greater postural stability and men have greater muscle strength. And that suits their roles. As I give example to my students of biomechanics, like women have a broader pelvis, women have a lower center of gravity, and because of that, women are more stable. And why are they more stable? Because from an evolutionary point of view, it was a woman's job to bear a child, and it was a man's job to hunt, provide, fight, and do all of those jobs. So let's suppose if a man falls, it's nothing serious. But if a woman falls and she's pregnant and she's expecting a child, so that threatens the life of the child. Similarly, if she's carrying a child, like carrying a child in her arm, and if she falls, the child can get hurt. So God created woman in a way which suits her role. So she's better at different things and men are better at different things. Research has shown over and over again that women are better at emotional intelligence. And that is a very good example. If you ask me to go in a room and there are little children, I would be acting very awkward. But if you let a woman into that room, there she would, in a few seconds or a few minutes, she would start interacting with children, and she would know how to take care of them and communicate with them, because she has high emotional intelligence. And that is being proven by research again and again. And men have better abstract conceptualization. That is why your brother, even if he's younger than you, and if your computer is not working, he fixes it for you. It's not a woman's fault. It's just that God has created their mind in different ways. God has created their bodies in different ways. And there is beauty in that. They are both better than each other in different aspects. According to research in the Scandinavian countries, if we talk about Scandinavia, so they have gone the furthest in terms of reaching gender equality. So there are no gender roles in Scandinavia. And if we talk about Scandinavia, what do you think would have happened in terms of professions in Scandinavia? What do you think would have happened if there is complete gender neutrality? Yes.
So the opposite happened.
Opposite of what we expect. Because in terms of gender equality, what we expect is if the genders are equal, there will be equal number of engineers, equal number of doctors, equal number of everything. But once again, what was observed is that professions that require a higher emotional intelligence like nursing, like psychology, like fine arts, there were more women in those professions, and professions that require abstract conceptualization, there were more men. So if you stop influencing men and women by the term, gender equality, and you give 100% gender equality, a man and a woman from a neutral perspective is going to choose what comes to him or her naturally. We already know that women would be better psychologists than men because they have higher emotional intelligence. Because if you ask men to compete with women in terms of emotional intelligence, we are always going to lose because they are better at it. Research has shown it, and even our personal experience shows that. If you want to share something, who do you go to? Your elder sister or your mother? You never go to your father. Because what is the thing that you think about? You say that he would not understand. Except for a few exceptional cases. That is what you do. If you need something, you ask your mom to tell your dad. Because you know that she would understand. She would understand what you want. Like for example, if a child who is not even speaking properly, a mother can understand what he wants. So we need to recognize the beauty of binary genderism. Because that is actually how God created us, and both genders are very important. We need to respect our fathers as well as our mothers, because without their roles, we would not have been what we are today. And for the benefit of mankind, we need to respect both genders and we need to follow it. And in regards of gender fluidity, I would say one thing. Like if I say that I identify as an African person, African black person of African descent, how would it sound like? I would say I'm African. I would say I'm black. How would it sound like?
Weird.
It would sound stupid, right? People would even say that you are making racist jokes. Because I cannot identify as, let's suppose, an African person because I'm not. Okay? But do you think that race is more important or gender? Because race is a spectrum, but even then I cannot say that I'm African, right? Because race is not binary. Gender is binary. There is clear biological difference between man and woman. Yet we say that it's not okay to identify as a person of different ethnicity, but it's okay to identify as a person of different gender. And if we don't stop this, it's going to keep on going. And if we talk about religion, so you know what happened to Qawm. So we all know that. So God has actually, that is why we say that, that's the beauty of this book, because God has already given us examples. And it's not just about who were involved in those activities. The people who were also supporting them were punished. People who were also not saying that this is wrong were also punished. And as we say when we talk about jihad, the easiest form of jihad is to think that this is wrong, at least in your heart, even if you can't say it. Because in today's world, because of the cancel culture, it's also become very difficult to even say the right things. And you can see that if it was so natural, why does it have to be so forced? Why does it have to be put in every movie, in every show, in every debate? Okay, I was looking at video clip, I don't know if it was from Australia or United States, and there was a judge, and they were asking from a judge, how do you define a woman? And she was unable to define what a woman is. So if you cannot define what a woman is, then how can you ensure women rights? How, like for example, if there's a case in which two women are involved, let's suppose cisgender and transgender, how can you give the right decision if you cannot even decide what a woman is? And now you do not even have to fit the definition of a, let's suppose, woman, for example. You can have long hair, and you can have a beard, and you can apply, let's suppose, lip gloss or whatsoever, and then you can identify as whatever you feel like. You're not man, you're not woman, you are something, but you identify as. So that is a lot of confusion. And people say that what is your problem with it? They say that what is anyone's problem with anyone's expression of their gender? They are not hurting anyone. But yes, it does influence us. I gave you a few examples, like for example in sports, in terms of women's rights, and these things would keep on going and going and going. And if we talk about all the, it's a human nature. When we have no problems, then we start indulging in problems. You can take the example of Greeks and Romans. They had no problems, they were at the top of the world, they start indulging in homosexuality. And then you can see what happened to them. So this is something which is a repetitive cycle. When we reach the top, then we start doing stuff like this because we don't have any other problem to focus on. But what we need to do is, I'm not here to tell you what's right and what's wrong, but statistics, they do tell us that, it's at least, the statistics do tell us that it's harmful for women's rights at least. So we need to talk about that. And there's actually a documentary by Matt Walsh, which is called What is a Woman? And he has gone to different scholars and researchers and psychologists and doctors, and no one can define what a woman is. And then he went to tribes of Africa, even to people who do not even know how to speak, who have never been to, the modern world. Like people who are very, very backward, but they could define what a woman is. So that is alarming. And why? Like for example, I was looking at Matt Walsh's documentary, and there was a surgeon, a doctor, and she wasn't able to define what a woman is, and she was like, it's absolutely all right, and there is no medical adverse effects of gender reassignment or any of the hormone replacement therapies and stuff like that. How can you be a doctor and say that in surgery? But why are people working on that? One is to obviously, people have their political agendas. And the second thing is a lot of people are benefiting from it. Let me give you an example of cosmetic industry. So there were 50% women and 50% men. So now almost, let's say 10% men have also become women. So maybe more, I would say more potential clients for cosmetic industries. More potential clients for cosmetic procedures and surgeries, more clients for gender reassignment surgeries. Do you know what is the most paying medical profession among the medical professionals? That's cosmetic surgery now. So it's benefiting some people, right?
Exactly.
So that is what these are some few things, and we need to understand about this because now we have a Transgender Act 2018 as well. If you people have a little bit of time, go through it, and there are some discrepancies in it because the biggest discrepancy is that instead of defining it as Transgender Act, we should define it as Intersex Act. And if we do that, that would be very beneficial. If anyone has any questions or if anyone would like to share anything, you are most welcome. However, I once again apologize if I offended someone or if stated something which is not factual. So if anyone would like to ask any question, you are most welcome. Yes.
इसमें अगर एक इसकी रूट वैल्यू देखी जाए ट्रांसजेंडर की, तो अक्सर ये होता है ना कि सिबलिंग्स हैं, ठीक है, और उनमें 4 ब्रदर्स और 1 सिस्टर है, ठीक है, और उनके साथ ही उसका ग्रोन अप हुआ, ठीक है, और उस ग्रोन अप में उसने कुछ चीज़ें, उसके एक्शंस कुछ ऐसे हो गए हैं कि वो जब सोसाइटी में आता है तो वो लोग उसे थोड़ा अजीब सा वो करते हैं बिहेव। तो मैं यही कहना चाह रहा था कि इसमें इसकी ग्रोन अप का भी थोड़ा है रोल कि पेरेंट्स को भी देखना चाहिए कि वो उसको थोड़ा सा करें।
As I said, a man can have feminine characteristics and a woman can have masculine characteristics. Even without the influence of the outside world, everyone would be different. One biological reason for that could be the testosterone levels. Okay, and everyone is different. Everyone's mind is different. The types of intelligence are different. Okay, so one thing is that everyone has a different personality, so we cannot put everyone in the same basket. All men are not the same, all women are not the same. So you cannot say that this is how a man should be. The same. We should stop running towards that equality because we are not equal. We are here to complement each other. A daughter and a son cannot be equal. A brother and a sister cannot be equal. Like for example, if I have a flat tire, if I have a flat tire and if I have my sister, my daughter or my wife with me, I would not go towards equality. Okay, car I change karta hu. No, I should change both cars because Islam teaches me chivalry. So yes, ma'am.
ये जो cultural influence की बात हो रही थी ना, I don't think so we can use even excuse or and due to such certain influences I am doing this. Like I used to give example even to my colleagues and friends that we can't say my brother is not allowing to take me scarf. We have to answer for our deeds in our grave. We can't make such excuses that this is implemented by the society. What we are Muslims. We have to answer for our deeds. So we should be more vigilant about our acts instead of the society. So I also agree that we can't take the excuse of society or culture.
आप बिल्कुल सही कह रही हैं और इसी को जिहाद कहते हैं.
Yes, this is jihad. So this is just an excuse. It has
but
no
sometimes because
we
in
have
cases
to
of
follow.
women,
Yes, we can follow, but we can't take it as an excuse, as a permanent excuse. That my father wants this, my brother wants this. Then what are you? What are you? My basic question is that who are you? So people don't bother this thing.
Islam तो ये आपके वालिदैन भी
I
ऐसी चीज
have to
कहती हैं.
answer about my needs in my life, not about what my brother wants from me, what my husband wants from me. It's a broad topic to discuss, but one of the aspects that we are talking here.
You are absolutely right. जैसे कि इस्लाम तो ये भी कहते हैं आपके वालिदैन भी कोई ऐसी चीज कहते हैं जो इस्लाम के हुक्म और अल्लाह के हुक्म के खिलाफ है. Once again, I am not qualified enough to talk. और ऐसा आप सबको मुझसे ज़्यादा इस्लाम के बारे में पता होगा, but just a few things. Yes.
If you are negating the culture in a house, like the male is more dominant over a female, so
no, I am not negating that.
Sir, basically the rules and regulations are governed by that specific man, and you're saying that if they have a child, let's suppose a son, so the female is accountable for her education. But if basically the father is more responsible for the education of the child, and
I got you.
suppressing his wife, and she will not educate or raise that son properly.
मैं समझ एक बात मैं आपको सच बताऊं बिकॉज मैं खुद एक बेटा हूँ. ठीक है, इट्स नेचुरल. ठीक है, बाप गलत भी होगा, बेटा माँ की साइड लेगा. पहली बात, बेटा जैसे बात अगर बाप माँ पे हाथ उठाएगा उसका हाथ रुकेगा और आएंगे ना. सो वी शुड आल्सो पुट साइकोलॉजिकल काउंसलिंग इन दैट.
So do you believe in the South Asian culture it's more of gender assigned roles that lead to such toxic decisions? Maybe
such
as a female being prone to any kind of damage from the male society, or a female knowing that she is unable to do some tasks which are assigned for the male in our South Asian culture.
This is a very easy debate to answer. Okay, for number one thing is that forget about culture. Culture means nothing to us. We are Muslims, and this South Asian culture, this Indian culture, this means nothing to us. Okay. Second thing, gender roles. Yes, gender roles do exist in Islam. So we cannot negate that gender roles do not exist in Islam. So let's accept what Islam says. Let's respect that. Okay. Yes. And the third thing is that if Islam has allowed a woman to do anything, she should do it. Like for example, Islam gives complete right. In fact, Islam says that women should seek education. So women should seek education. We cannot say that हमारी सोसाइटी है क्या, सोसाइटी क्या है, कल्चर नहीं. इस्लाम ने कहा, इस्लाम ने तो ये कहा है कि जो है वो एक औरत की एजुकेशन एक मर्द की एजुकेशन से ज़्यादा इम्पोर्टेंट है, बिकॉज द चिल्ड्रन एक्चुअली लर्न फ्रॉम देयर मदर. सो इफ यू टीच अ वुमन यू आर एक्चुअली टीचिंग अ जनरेशन. एंड इस्लाम इस चीज़ को फर्दर इन्फ्लुएंस करने के लिए ये भी कहता है कि अगर एक मर्द एक इंसान जब अपनी दो बेटियों की अच्छी तरबियत करता है, उनको पढ़ाता है, उनको अच्छा खिलाता पिलाता पहनाता है, तो वो क़यामत के दिन दोज़ख की आग के बीच में और उसके बीच में जो है पर्दे की तरह हाई हो जाए. So Islam has every question. If you have ever had any doubt that what a woman should do or a woman shouldn't do, just open the Quran.
It's not about what the women should do. It's more about a woman is allowed to
Forced to.
Once again,
forced
yes,
not to do.
okay. That responsibility falls on me as well as on you. How does it fall on me? It falls on me because I am a man. So I should allow my sister, my daughter, my wife, my mother to do everything which the religion has given her the right to. In fact, if she wants to do it, I should respect her and I should support her. But greater responsibility falls on you, which women do not recognize. Why? Because you are the one who are going to instill that ideology into your men, your sons. So as a mother-in-law and as a mother, not right now, but after a few years, that responsibility falls on you much more than it falls on me. Because he is going to learn it from you. The problem in our culture is that mother-in-laws, they have a different opinion for their daughter, but they have a different opinion for their daughter-in-law.
So then what do we do about the raised men's?
What?
What do we do about the raised men's? We are living in.
I am a raised man, so the responsibility falls on me. Like if I'm doing something wrong, it's my fault. But once again, what I can do is I can educate my friends.
Exactly.
I can educate my juniors. I can educate my students not to be toxic towards women.
LGBT को सपोर्ट करते हैं, सारा उसके सामने करते हैं, उसकी ग्रोन अप जो हुई है वो इस माहौल में हुई है। सर इसको हम कंट्रोल कैसे करेंगे? क्योंकि इस तरह जनरेशन टू
यही तो डिबेट है कि सबसे इसको कंट्रोल करने के इसको इधर ही रोका जाए। यही तो सबसे बड़ा थ्रेट है जो मैं शुरू में बात कर रहा था कि समवन आइडेंटिफाइज एज सम अदर जेंडर, तो आपको इससे क्या फर्क पड़ रहा है? मुझे इससे फर्क ये पड़ रहा है कि इससे आने वाली जनरेशन को फर्क पड़ रहा है। मैं तो नहीं अब चेंज हो जाऊंगा, लेकिन बच्चा तो चेंज हो सकता है, क्योंकि वो तो छोटा है। उनको अगर आप किंडरगार्टन और स्कूल में पढ़ाएं, यही तो वो जहाज है जो हमने करेंगे कि सही को सही और गलत को।
मेरा और आपका इसमें क्या रोल है?
ये हमारा यही रोल है कि हम अगर और कुछ नहीं कर सकते तो सही को सही और गलत को गलत। अगर उससे भी थोड़े से बहादुर हैं, हम सही को सही और गलत को गलत कहें, उससे भी ज़रा बहादुर हैं, तो हम जिसको हम कहते हैं जहाद तबलीग करें। तबलीग सिर्फ ये नहीं होती है नमाज पढ़ो। अच्छा, और हमेशा ये बात याद रखिए, आपने किसी को भी बात समझानी है तो कभी आपसे हम जो राइट विंग के लोग हैं, रिलीजियस लोग हैं, राइट विंग के लोग हैं, ये सारे इनका प्रॉब्लम पता है क्या है? They always talk from the position of authority, never talk from the position of authority. तुम लोग ऐसे करते हो, ये करते हो, वो करते हो, सारे रिलीजियस स्कॉलर ऐसे बात करते हैं, सारे सही बातें करने वाले उनका अंदाज़ ध्यान रखते हैं। Never talk from a point of authority. आप अपने आप को एक आम आदमी पेश करके, अपने आप को गुनाहगार पेश करके, अपने आप को उन जैसा पेश करके उनके साथ बात करें, तब वो आपकी बात सुनेंगे। अगर मैं आप यहाँ पे आके आज टीचर के तौर पे बात करता हूँ, चुप होकर बैठ जाओ, तुम्हें क्या पता तुम गलत बोल रहे हो, ये वो तुम सब वही दिमाग तुम ऐसे करते हो, वैसे करते हो, ये नहीं करना चाहिए, तो आप सब लोग शायद मेरी बात नहीं सुनते। ठीक है, तो मतलब दैट इज द डिफरेंस। इफ यू वांट समवन टू लर्न समथिंग, नेवर स्पीक टू देम फ्रॉम अ पॉइंट ऑफ अथॉरिटी। और यही सबसे बड़ी बात है कि जो ये लेफ्टिस्ट लोग के लोग हैं वो पॉइंट ऑफ अथॉरिटी से बात नहीं करते।
तो करें, लेकिन ज्यादा ड्यूटी लड़के क्यों?
मेरे ख्याल से दोनों की बहुत ज्यादा ड्यूटी है। अब मैं जो है ना, देखें, मर्द के बारे में एक बात आपको बता दूं फ्रॉम साइकोलॉजिकल पॉइंट ऑफ व्यू, ठीक है? वुमेन नीड अटेंशन, वुमेन आर हंग्री फॉर अटेंशन, ठीक है? बट मेन आर हंग्री फॉर एप्रिसिएशन। ये बात हमेशा याद रखिए। सो इफ अ वुमन वांट्स हर मैन टू डू समथिंग, शी हैज टू अप्रिशिएट दैट। The second thing is it is the responsibility of both. ठीक है, दोनों को मिलकर करना होगा। जो मर्द का रोल है वो उसको करना होगा, जो औरत का रोल है वो उसको करना होगा। दोनों एक चीज जो इम्पोर्टेंट है ना, हम लोग कहते हैं कि जी शादी जो है वो मतलब खानदान को देखते हैं, इसको देखते हैं, उसको देखते हैं। जो सबसे इम्पोर्टेंट चीज को हम देखना भूल जाते हैं ना, वो इंसान होता है, जो मर्द है। ठीक है, अल्लाह ताला ने हुजूर पाक ने क्या उसमें हमें रेगुलेशन बताई है। एक ये है कि हम पल्ला, ये भी नहीं कि आपने बड़े नाज से पाला अपनी बेटी को, गरीब से शादी कर दें, हम पल्ला हो, ये होना चाहिए। लेकिन उसकी शख्सियत को देखें, उसकी रिलीजन को देखें, बिकॉज दैट इज व्हाट्स गोइंग टू मैटर। हम लोग क्या करते हैं, हम लोग ऐसे लोगों से हम एक्चुअली बेटे से शादी नहीं करते, हम बाप से शादी करते हैं। और जब बाप से शादी करते हैं तो वो लड़का मुस्लिम मामा से बढ़ता है, बिकॉज वो खुद से कुछ नहीं बना होता। He is always in a state of fear, क्योंकि वो जो भी है उनकी वजह से,
वो कभी भी उनके अगेंस्ट खड़ा नहीं हो सकता। तो हमारी सोसाइटी के अंदर ये पहले तो हमें ये समझना पड़ेगा कि मैन और वुमन इनका रोल क्या है, और शादी के अंदर मैन और वुमन मतलब बिना का रोल होता है, माँ बाप का रोल नहीं होता। मतलब वी हैव टू डिसाइड व्हाट दे हैव टू डू एंड हाउ दे हैव टू डू। तो इसलिए उन दोनों की रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी सिर्फ एक नहीं। तो आप जब पार्टनर भी चूज करें तो उसके अंदर जो है वो इन चीजों में देखें, ना कि उन चीजों को जो हमारी सोसाइटी में देखा जाता है कि कितना हसमैल होगा, कितना सोना होगा, गाड़ी है गाड़ी, कितना कमाता है, बाप क्या करता है। तो ये चीजें सफर करना पड़े, एक औरत को सफर करना पड़े कि उसके पास अपने इस्लाम को प्रैक्टिस करने की जो है वो अथॉरिटी नहीं उसको मिल रही, लेकिन वो अपने बेटे को ट्रेन कर सकती है। इसी तरीके से यू आर अ मैन, नाउ यू हैव Allah Ta'ala has given you intellect, you can
I have freedom of choice.
Yes, you have freedom of choice. Every human has freedom of choice. You can be the kind of father, the kind of son, the kind of husband, the kind of brother that is exemplary. And it will just take one generation to get rid of these societal evils which we have acquired from India. सबसे पहले मुझे ये इंडियन ड्रामे और पाकिस्तानी ड्रामे देखना पड़ता है क्योंकि इसमें साफ से भूल के अलावा कुछ नहीं। सबसे पहले जो हमें वो, और खास तौर पे मर्दों को men need to understand to stand in front of their parents for the rights of their wives, I would say, because they are the only element of protection in the society that a woman has. A woman can be as strong as she can be, but still, and at the end of the day, it's a man's responsibility to protect her. And if you want to judge man's character, तो उसमें अल्लाह ताला ने और Osama ने खुद ही कह दिया कि तुम में से सबसे अच्छा वो है जो अपने घर वालों के साथ अच्छा है, और घर वालों में सबसे ज्यादा रिस्पेक्ट माँ की है, लेकिन सबसे पहली रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटी बीवी और बच्चों की है। ये नहीं हो सकता कि आपके बीवी बच्चे जो है वो आपने उनकी रिस्पॉन्सिबिलिटीज पूरी करनी है, माँ की भी करनी है। अगर आप नहीं कर सकते तो कम से कम आप थोड़ा सा पॉलिटिकली उनके साथ प्ले कर सकते हैं, माँ के सामने के हाँ ठीक है, बेगम के सामने के हाँ, और दोनों के सामने। So it's a man's role in families, but that is why God has made man the leader, because women are emotional. हो सकता है कि इमोशनल, बिकॉज हर माँ जो है वो पोजेसिव होती है, और कुछ ना कुछ उस पोजेशन के अंदर ही जो है वो मतलब डॉक्टर इन लॉ के साथ वो।
Yes, now Dr. Usama can shed light on such.
नहीं मैं पहले से भी यही सब पहले वो, because alhamdulillah my mother is not like that.